Welcome back to another edition of the Burgundy Breakdown. It's all going down here today. What we got coming up today, fellas?
Draft talk recap, man. Even more bigger news, especially for y'all old heads. RFK is back, and it's gonna be better. And Josh Harris says it's gonna be the best stadium in the whole entire country. So we got a lot to talk about tonight, and I'm excited. Can't wait.
And the Burgundy Breakdown starts now. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What's up, fellas?
What's going on? How you feeling?
I'm feeling great. How you?
I'm good. I feel a little delayed because soon as the pick happened, I wanted to jump on and talk to y'all because the immediate reactions I already know is through the roof. Who be kidding? I mean, I like we gonna get into it. I love the pick, don't get me wrong, but it's just always that initial shock of it being a reality. Woo! So I know the emotions probably wore off by now. We done got to do our research and say, okay, we see why we did it, or still, I don't like it. But the immediate reaction, I would have loved to jump on to talk about it because I know it'd have been different.
Yeah, I ain't gonna hold you. I was itching to text y'all late that night, like midnight, like fuck it, let's just hop on. But yeah, man, it just wasn't gonna work out. But I feel you, Juan.
Yeah, definitely. How y'all feeling though?
So before we get into that, fellas, I just want to say if you haven't already done so, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification so you can get informative videos like this when we post each and every Wednesday, the Burgundy Breakdown. Also, if you haven't already done so, follow us at Reedie Zee at all platforms, and also follow Juan Gotti Talking Sports on YouTube. And what's your plug on Instagram?
Instagram is the same thing. Juan Gotti Talking Sports, and Twitter. I don't really use it, but it is Juan Gotti Talking Sports as well. But the name is Juan Gotti WFT when we was the Washington football team at the time. So those are my handles.
Yeah, so let's just get right into it. Let's just start with the draft. So Juan, tell me how. Just go ahead, elaborate on what you already kind of hinted at a little bit, and let me know what's going on with you.
Yeah, man. So first of all, okay, the draft in itself. Let's just start it out. Talk about we went 3 for 3, or at least we went what I say. The draft really started was like pick the Browns pick Mason Graham after they traded back. Well, no, because I got that one right as well. Probably the pick after that, it really got started. I mean, just put that out there. This draft was off the chain in the total. But once it got to Washington, I now got smoke with the Chargers. Never in my life would I thought I had personal problems with the Chargers, but now I do. Because y'all know me, Omarion Hampton was the guy, was the pick. And considering how we eventually went about the running back position, I don't know if we would have drafted him still, but I would have loved to at least have the opportunity. And the Chargers took that away from me. So now I have personal issues with the Chargers. And we're going to get to the Ravens a little bit later as well. But once we got on the clock, left tackle never creeped my mind. I'll be honest with you. I know up here we've talked about it. Y'all talked about tackle potentially being in the works. Reedie Zee, of course, right? But it never crossed my mind that we would legitimately take a tackle. And when they said Washington select Josh Conley Jr., you know what? I immediately said, I get it. I understand it. In the past, I've reacted negatively towards pick, rightfully so, right? But I immediately get it. And the reason why it was different, although this player was not who I thought we were going to take, and no tackle was really on my board at 29, but the reason why I got it was because now we have a franchise prize that we've never had. And all they did was invest in protecting the best thing that has ever happened to this organization. So I understood it. Now, had we not had a quarterback and a quarterback of the caliber that we have, it probably would have been a different reaction from me. But you never going to get me, especially with knowing how good he can be and just knowing we were scratching the surface last year. I just tell people, because everyone was upset about the pick. You go on Twitter, they was pissed off. I'm just like, nah, I'm not like, I get it. I say, look, just pull up the Detroit Lions game. Y'all see how much time JD5 had in the pocket during that game. That is what they're trying to create on a consistent basis. Abdul Carter just went to the Giants. They got Brian Burns. They got Bobby Okereke. The Cowboys got Michael Parsons, DeMario Overshown coming back, and they just drafted a edge. Was it out of Boston College? And then obviously we know how good the Eagles defense is. So they're trying to counter that. You know what I'm saying? And I have no issue with the pick at all, man. I really don't. And he seems like a guy that's gonna come right in and fit what we're looking for. And also to close out, it makes too much sense because now you have no hole at left tackle. Okay, cool. They're like, well, we just signed Laramie Thompson. Well, I'll be forgetting Laramie's on a 1-year deal. We can get out of his contract after this season. Say he does ball out, done. We get the contract extension because that's what he wants. He wants a contract extension. Cool. Well, now you have your franchise right tackle, right? Andrew Wiley, we know, barely made it this season. He was going to have he had to reconstruct that contract until so he can be back next year. So now, okay, Laramie Thompson balls out and he's now getting a contract extension. Okay, now your tackles are locked up for the future. Then you push Brandon Coleman. Everybody likes that, right? Push Brandon Coleman in the left guard. My guy, Al Greedy going to the bench apparently. So he behind Nate Herbig at this point, right? Like he's going to the bench. So Brandon Coleman at guard. Everyone loves that move. And then obviously Wiley to right guard potentially into Sam Cosmi comes back. But just talk from a regular healthy standpoint. Let's include Sam Cosmi in this. That offensive line is mean, y'all. Like that is an offensive line. I'm sorry, I don't know what happened to my camera. But that is an offensive line that we've dreamed of. So I love it, man. I love the move. I understand it. It's not the most exciting nor sexiest pick, but
Go ahead, Z.
Yeah, I'm gonna hop on real quick till Juan gets back. But yeah, you know what I mean, like Juan was saying, man, leading up to that pick, you know what I mean, waiting around 29 end of the night, and we just waiting, and we just know we're gonna get an edge. We just know we about to get either an edge or a running back. Hampton goes, you know, to the Chargers. You're like, shit. All right, cool. All right, now, you know, in my mind, I kept saying Mike Green. Boom, a tackle. Josh Connolly Jr. Like I told Reedie, I already had the clip arts ready to post. I had Will Johnson already generated. I had Mike Green generated. I just knew it was one of the two. And then we went left and got a tackle. You know what I mean? And immediately my reaction was like, whoa, what the fuck? And then it's just like sunk in. Well, you got to protect that asset. You know, you got Abdul College just went to the Giants. You know what I mean? You got on the other end, like we said, the Eagles D-line is their D-line. The Cowboys end up getting another pass rusher, but they already had a pass rush. So we got to compliment that. Not mad. You know, they had nothing but great things to say about Connolly Jr. So, you know what I mean? I couldn't really be mad at it. You got to protect your best guy. And then, you know what I mean? Like they said, one of his strengths is pass protection. And it just immediately sunk. Okay, cool. Now he can be the other tackle. Boom. You put Coleman at guard, where they say his best position is guard. They saying, you know, even though he was versatile and was a guard and tackle in college, he did better at guard. So, you know, in my mind, I'm like, well, that kicks Allegretti to the bench, just as Juan just said a little while ago. I've been saying that all season. Nick Allegretti is not a starter in this league. He's a hell of a depth guy, though, and I think he's going to bring energy and supplement when needed, but I don't think he's a 17, 18-week starter. And pretty much from there, you know, Wiley could bump in that guard to hold us over until Cosmi get back. But I think when we are in full-fledged, it's going to be Tunsil, Coleman, Beatis, Cosmi, Connolly Jr. And I think that's going to be a great five. And, you know what I mean, just as we mentioned previously today, me and Reedie were saying, you know, this could potentially be a top 5 offensive line in this league. But yeah, go ahead and finish telling us what you were saying once they pick Connolly, Juan.
Yeah, Core's got a shortage, man. I don't know, they just randomly go out. But I was essentially just saying, like, basically what you said. Like, it's the right pick. I understand it. It's not the most sexiest pick. It's not what a lot of us thought. And if you would have told me that we wouldn't have drafted the edge, I would be like, wow. You know, I thought at least we would find one in some type of round. But I get it, and I like the pick. I'm all about protecting the biggest investment ever in this franchise history. So I love the move. You ain't gonna get me to negatively talk about it.
Yeah, for me, I mean, it was pretty much the same thing. I'm sitting there, like Z already aforementioned. I'm sitting there thinking, okay, we're gonna take the corner out of Michigan, Johnson. We're gonna run it up. I'm like, okay, I got my wish. He fell to us. I wasn't necessarily sold that we were going to take an edge with the first pick. And I know I came on here last week and I said that, we're probably looking to take offensive tackle or offensive guard, but I didn't believe it. I just was saying, what I was hearing, hence the Reedie Kime, shenanigans or whatever. That's what I was hearing from the insider that, they're looking to go off, offensive line in the first round. So I kind of was shocked, for like the first 5 minutes. I'm like looking around, and then it came to mind, just was like, isn't it the same guy that got cooked against Mike Green in the Senior Bowl? Then I had to go back and look at the tape, and I'm like, oh yeah, that is the guy. And then I just like took a minute and I'm like, well, damn. And I started looking at the highlights, and I'm like, well, as far as all of the metrics and all of the numbers and stuff like that, he didn't really give up too much. And then I had to realize football, like, you're going to get beat at some time. Like, it's one rep. So, but it's just a bad rep, but it's one rep. And then I started hearing all of the other good things about him, and I did my research, and I was like, okay, well, he might not be bad. So then I was over it at that point. And, like I've been saying all year, in API trust. So if he feels as though we needed to go offensive line in the first round, then I'm with it. You know what I'm saying? Because like you guys said, we have to protect our number one asset in Jaden Daniels. And I stand corrected, because I thought that Coleman would be the right tackle, but as it's looking right now, and this is just speculation, we don't know. We haven't got through OTAs and training camp or mini camp or even rookie mini camp. Speculation is, like Z mentioned before, that lineup with the healthy Sam Cosmi in the mix. So, I mean, it's looking up for this offensive line, this unit, moving forward. And we had to kind of beef up that unit in order to keep pace with these other defensive fronts in this league, because, some of these defensive fronts are week in, week out, some of the best that you're going to see.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly, man. I think I want to say it was, but our approach clearly was what we talked about. It was best player available. So I would just assume that although left tackle wasn't necessarily a need for this year, I told people I'm not gonna say that's our problem, because we're fans, right? So of course we're gonna think about what they can do to upgrade instantly in the draft. Adam Peters is thinking 3-4 years from now. Like, he thinks 3-4 years from now, Josh Conley Jr. can be a Pro Bowl or a pro tackle, and their fans were questioning it back in 2025. But fast forward to 2028, he's in his prime or just scratching the surface, and it's just like, wow, what another stud pick from Adam Peters. But now moving forward into the rest of the draft, this is another team that I have an issue with, because as you mentioned, you brought up Will Johnson at 49. He goes to the Cardinals. Who thought he was gonna fall that far, right? I know it was a knee issue and stuff like that, but who would have expected him to fall all the way into the second round like that? I'm getting at 61. I'm like, man, there's so much that's about to be here available for us, man. No way Mike Green about to officially fall to us in the second round, and we were just talking about taking him in the first round. His grandmother got a Redskin hat on. It's only right. And the freaking Baltimore Ravens take them. That's one of the teams where it's just like, come on, man. Like, y'all already good. Like, what more do y'all need? So they end up taking Mike Green. And then I'm like, okay, cool. What are we going to do? Everyone said it. DB. And it ended up being Trey Amos. And immediately, once again, I love the pick. I loved it. But even though y'all know how I talked about it. Hey, I'm fine with the DB room, how it is. I was. But again, like you said, trusting in Adam Peters. And then after I turned on that film, I said, oh, yeah, he's meant for the NFC East. He is meant for the NFC East. Physical, get in your face. Don't allow you the receivers to breathe. Body slamming people, not afraid to come down and tackle. He's meant for this division in terms of what we have to defend. Malik Neighbors and CeeDee Lamb and AJ Brown, and list goes on. Devontae Smith, he's meant for here. And how, like we just said about the offensive line, if we get healthy Marshawn Lattimore back and he refers to his old self and then Mikey in the slide and then the depth pieces, not only can we have a top 5 offensive line, but we just went from Emmanuel Forbes, Benjamin St. Juice, and Michael Davis to, dare I say, a potential secondary that's looking very, very scary. So how are we feeling about the second round pick in Trey Amos?
I think for me, awesome. Like I just like all his makeup, his DNA, kind of a bit. He kind of got that St. Jude body style. You know what I'm saying? Fast. You know what I'm saying? Ball hawk, rangy. Had a whole lot of PBUs. It seems like he gets his head back. And looks, for the ball when it's in the air. Once he's in phase, everything that Benjamin St. Jude didn't do, I seem like with that body style, I think he has. So I was excited with the pick, and I kind of remembered him from his days at Alabama, but I wasn't quite sure. Then I go look at the tape, and I'm like, well, why am I just seeing all this Ole Miss stuff? Like, where's the Louisiana Lafayette and the Alabama tape? And then I did some digging, and I came across it. So I just think he might be the steal of our draft because, what I'm hearing from all of these so-called insiders, Mel Kiper Jr.'s and John Gruden's of the world, like he should have been a first-round pick. And Adam Peters already alluded to that in his press conference. Like they were comfortable with taking him in the first round, and they got him in the second. They wasn't going to, try to trade back and then him fall and get away from him. They said they had to take him. So I'm excited about it, and it just solidifies our DB room. You could play him on the outside. You got Marshawn on the other side. You kick Mikey back in the slot. Then you still got Noah I in a pinch in the slot. You know what I'm saying? Then you got to remember we brought in Jonathan Jones. So I just feel like it's just like the depth on this secondary is just up. I'm not so necessarily on the safeties. I feel like we still need one, maybe another missing piece, a Simmons or somebody like that to kind of take that over the hump. But I'm excited for what they did as far as that to make that a room of strength.
Yeah, definitely. And I would say on my end, definitely similar situation as I said for the first round. You said you waiting, and boom, Mike Green goes, right before. So I'm expecting a trade back at that point because I'm thinking like, damn, our guy's gone. We could potentially trade back and get some more picks. But I mean, there was some other guys on the board, some other edge on the board, and then boom, Trey Amos. And I'm like, ooh, a corner. Okay, another situation where, and I was telling Reedie this the other day, like we sit around and we just be like, man, we gonna get this person, we get this person. We're anticipating this specific position, this specific player, and then boom, they go way left and have us questioning them and like they don't know what they're doing the whole time. They really do be sticking to their board and sticking to their plan. So, with the Trey Amos thing, I heard his name, but I never really, knew too much about him. But immediately when they talk about him, everybody had great things to say, like, oh, like this is a steal. He's 6'1", ran a 4.4, he's rangy, potential contributor day one. So just like I said with the tackle thing, okay, I didn't necessarily think we needed a tackle first round. So similar situation. I didn't necessarily think we needed a corner second round, but we knew that was a position that if you add another player there, that just makes us that much more deep and more versatile. So if you can be able to put him on the outside, move Mikey inside, like you said, with Jonathan Jones now becomes our dime or our rotational nickel, or we can move some pieces around and we still got other corners in the mix. I mean, Noah I was re-signed. So I mean, it just continues to add depth there, and of course, with the high expectation that Marshawn Lattimore is going to step up and do his thing. So everybody's saying that Amos could potentially be that guy opposite of Lattimore, and I'm excited and ready to see that. The fact that, like I said, that he was 6'1", 6'2", it just gives us that ability to kind of defend some of these bigger receivers, because we had a lot. I'm tired of all the short guys. So with the pick, I wasn't, after it kind of sunk in, I'm like, well, I can't be mad at that. We got us a guy. We got us somebody that can play and that's going to, wreak havoc. So that's pretty much where I was with it. But and then what kind of added the icing on the cake is AP came out because again, day one we had one pick, day two we had one pick. So AP coming out really immediately and addressing the media and saying like, Amos is a guy that we would have took round one if Connerly would have been gone. So to be able to get him in round two at 61 was a steal. We had other offers available, but we didn't want to pass up on him. He was too good of a guy to pass up on. So in AP, I trust. I feel like he know what he's talking about. And if he say he too good of a guy to pass up on and get a package with more picks, then I think he's really going to be a contributor. And I'm looking forward to seeing what he can bring to this defensive backs. Because like Reedie said, we're a little thin after Quan at the free safety. And then Will Hurst. We'll get into Madrano, but I think he's definitely going to be a contributor potentially there as well.
Yeah, I mean, just to jump back in quickly, I mean, even if you didn't do your research or watch his film or look at Trey Amos, just the fact that they say he was in play for 29 and we got him at 61, that should speak to you how highly they think of him, but how good he truly is. And I don't know how that, and you can say that for so many other players this draft. Like this was a weird draft. I don't know how he fell to 61. If they truly think he's that good and how high they think of him, and Mel Kiper and Phil Yates also said the same thing, especially about Ja'Cory Crossy-Murray, the running back. We'll get to him. Like, man, we apparently found some true value in every single pick, man. So I love it. You can add more into it, or we can move on to the next pick was Jalen Lane, correct? Right? 4th round pick.
Yeah,
Jalen
Lane. Now we're on day 3.
Yeah, day 3. We had to wait a little bit. Considering the fact this was one of the drafts where it was like, man, how good would it have been to have the draft capital we had last year? If we had the draft capital we had last year, man, I'm sure he would have.
I said, man, we would have cooked.
Yeah, man.
Damn.
Look, that wait for the 2nd round till we picked in the 4th round. Oh my God, I'm just like, when are we gonna pick again? It just was like we was cooked when we couldn't trade back and get no more picks.
Man.
We can't hear you, Juan.
I ain't know I was still on mute. But what I was saying was Jalen Lane, that pick in the 4th round, that was the only pick out of this year's class where in my reaction, it was a little bit uncertain. It wasn't like he was trash or I didn't like him or anything like that. I only knew him because of the college football game, not him IRL. And his lack of stats or games played kind of backed that up. He was kind of under radar guy. And I was like, I don't necessarily disagree with the pick, but I just don't know how to feel about it. I don't really know much about him. But then they said he could be a kick returner, punt returner. Right, we've been looking for one of those guys since prime Jamison Crowder, or even going back to Brandon Banks. I remember Brandon Banks, number 16. Like, we haven't had a legit punt returner in a long time, and they said that could be him. Do you take a punt returner in the 4th round? But then deep diving more, they say he got like one of the best deep ball trackings since like or something. They compared him to Deshaun Jackson, and if you're compared to a deep threat such as Deshaun Jackson, that's outstanding. You look at the loss of De'Ami Brown. Right, that's one thing that we all said and agreed upon. Like, we're losing that deep ball threat once he left, and who outside of Terry McLaurin truly can be that on this roster? There was nobody else. So once again, it's a pick where you kind of look at it like, huh? But then once you deep dive and look into the pick, it's like, I get it. So Jalen Lane, fellas, how are we feeling about that pick out of E-Tech?
Jalen Lane, didn't know anything about him. Still definitely trying to do my research on him. The one thing that pretty much stood out was definitely that he was that 4.3 speed. I was excited when I heard that. His height didn't really wow me. I'm like, okay, at 5'8". They say 5'9". I'm like, he really probably like 5'8".
Yeah.
So you know what I mean. So it's like a smaller guy. His stats from last year didn't wow me. I think he might have had like 400 or 500 yards, like 2 touchdowns. But to again, the speed, the shiftiness, and the highlights that they did show, they showed that he was definitely a burner. Reedie immediately called me and like, so is this your if this your speed guy you've been asking for? And I'm like, the verdict is still out. Like, I don't know, we'll see. But I do think that he can, stretch the field. I don't, what I mean, and we'll see what goes from there. I could tell you that our uncle, he was a receiver. He tested the league a little bit, few practice squads. He was a coach. He was a punt returner, kick returner. He played semi-pro, so he knows ball. And he said he ain't sold on him. So I don't know how much weight that hold, but what I mean, my uncle was like my personal best receiver that I've seen physically in my eyes, outside of NFL players. So I feel like he might know what he's talking about, but he said he's not too sold on him. So we'll see how it pan out. But I do think that, at the least he should be able to stretch the field and get some guys open. And I think he definitely going to be a contributor on punt return. I mean, we had Crowder back there, Luke. And, we need somebody that has returner experience and be here to be a designated returner. So I'm happy for that. And hopefully he can evolve into that offensive guy that we end up needing in the slot.
And before you go, Reedie, hold on. I got to address this. Obi-Wan Kenobi. I just got to say this. You will never catch me going out my way to watch an Eagles live stream. That's not my team. You know what I'm saying? Unless we about to play them or something like that, I probably talk my trash. But you're the defending Super Bowl champions. You should be on the top of the world right now. However, you come out of your fine evening to say you guys are so far away from the birds, it's not even funny. The Eagles just got even better. Now, of course, y'all kill the draft every year. That's nothing new. But to say we not even close, come on, man. Obi-Wan, what you smoking on, man? You should still be celebrating. You still off that Super Bowl high. That's what I see. We right there with the Eagles. Man,
he's smoking that Trump pack with Saquon. That's what he's smoking. That golf pack.
Man, shout out to the Eagles fans though, man. But I just always find it curious as how they always try to come true. Like, we in our own, we not even talking about them.
Facts.
And they gotta always you would think we're the Super Bowl champions, but they always compare themselves to us though, and we're the little brothers right now, right? Like we're the team beneath them, but they always say, "Y'all not us, y'all not us, y'all not us." Should we be the team that's like comparing us? Like, I don't know, bro. I just find it very odd, but they secretly love us because they know Jaden Daniels is light years better than Jalen Hurts. That's what it is, Obi-Wan. You wish Jaden Daniels was your quarterback. I know, I get it, I understand.
Nah, real recognize real. They see we on the rise. They see that we're going to be a threat. Moving down the road. They see, what we're doing here. It's just not, they're just not going to dominate this division. You know what I'm saying? Year in and year out, like in years past. The last 3-4 years they've been dominating.
So they fear us. That's what it is.
Yeah, they're a little nervous. They're a little nervous. It's cool though. We get y'all respect.
They know who our quarterback is. I told you when they left out of that, when we was standing there at that gate after that game, and they put the 55 burger on us, and they had all the shit to talk. It was a lot of them saying, y'all be back, y'all got Jaden. They know who 5 is, so they know what's up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but going back to the Lane pick, I kind of was underwhelmed when it happened. I'm just sitting there like, who is this guy? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, okay. They say it's fast. I immediately called Z. So I was like, so this is the guy that's who's going to take the top off the defense for us. The dude's is 5'7.5", 3/4 or something. He's going to take the top off. This is our speed guy. This is the guy that we've been asking for, that we've been needing. You know what I'm saying? Me and Juan are on the record saying that Noah Brown and Michael Gallup are going to have the best seasons of their careers this year. You know what I'm saying? But Z was wanting that speed guy. So is this the guy that's going to do it for us? We'll see. But then I had to sit back and think about it. Like, why are we taking a punt returner or a special teams guy. Because, you know, our special teams coach, what I saw on TV, he jumped up. He was excited. He was, you know, shaking hands and all that. So, you know, it was a special teams move. But at the same time, I had to sit back and I had to think about it. We had 5 picks. He's being very strategic in the way he's picking. So we kind of been saying we needed a punt returner, kick returner type guy for, I don't know, the past 3-4 seasons. So he goes out and he gets that guy. And so whatever he contributes on offense is a plus, because the amount of receivers we got in the room anyway is just crazy. I'm just trying to figure out, like, who's going to be slotted where after Terry and Debo. You know what I'm saying? It's a toss up for number 3. Then you still got Luke. He's probably improving. Then, not to mention, did you see some of the undrafted free agents that we signed? Look like they could flat out play too. So it's just like, this receiver room was a room that we were kind of worried about. So I don't necessarily really have a worry about it no more, because I'm looking like, well, damn, he did cook. But we're not really talking about that. So what you calling cap? You calling cap?
I'm still a little slightly worried. I like I said, the Terry is Terry. Debo, I'm expecting big things, especially in a contract year. All right, Verk is out on. I mean, we still trying to figure what's going on with Gallup. I ain't too sold on Noah being the third guy. All right, after that, you got Luke, questionable. After that, you got KJ, not even in my spectrum. After that, you got
he's a cap casualty.
We got the rookie guy.
I'm sorry.
We'll see. So it's like Terry, Debo. All right, who else? So have no worries.
That's a good point. I get it. I think it's more so from the comfortability point, is more so from the bodies and not the names. I think you're thinking of it from the names, which you're not wrong for.
Perspective. I'm looking at it from a holistic perspective, from a depth, and from what I've seen, the ability standpoint, and what Cliff can do with these different weapons. These, like, it's not like you don't have to have a guy that could do everything. You just need a guy that could do one thing well and use that thing he does well and inject that into the offense. Coming from a, you know, like a coaching perspective, like if Jalen Lane is a guy, like I see that he's really good on end arounds. He could be the end around guy, or the, you know, that just that trickery and all those different things. Yeah. So we don't need him to maybe necessarily go down the field and catch intermediate passes and stuff like that. We got Terry and we got Debo for that. We got other people for that. Just be good at what you do. You know what I'm saying? So that's where I'm coming at it from. Just not from a quantity perspective. Like if I can get 3 or 4 catches from one guy, then that will supplement what Terry does and what Debo does, and then, you know, what our backs do and stuff like that. So that's the perspective I'm coming from. Like, I ain't saying they're going to be all pros, or they're going to be, you know what I'm saying, like a solidified, you know, 1 or 2 receiver in this league, but we're talking about 3rd and 4th receivers. Like, how much are we really expecting from a 3rd and a 4th receiver?
Yeah. That's why I was gonna get at too. And like, you're not wrong for one of the big names. Trust me, I get it. That's why I'm so high on Michael Gallup, because yes, he is a big name, bro. Like, I get it. He had a season off, but we not gonna act like he wasn't that, at least against us when he played for Dallas. So I like everything that we're doing in terms of the receiver position as well. Could Luke McCaffrey be on the out? That is an interesting topic. I know he only had 1 season, but man, who knows? But you look at everything that we've had to do, you know, added, I should say. Terry McLaurin, obviously, all around great receiver. Debo Samuel, I think we're going to be utilizing him more as a running back than initially thought. That's probably why we waited to the 7th round to get a running back, right? But he still can catch, right? So that's speed. Then we lack last year, deep ball threat ability. You bring in Jalen Lane, that's speed. And then you got the size in terms of Noah Brown. And obviously, Michael Gallup is more speed. So something that we are adding and we're trying to get better at is adding speed to this wide receiver room and just this offense in general. So, man, that's what it seems like we're doing. And I definitely hope that the Jalen Lane pick pans out and that he's something for this roster. I mean, even if it's first year, he's the punt returner. That's a plus for me, because who's going to be the punt returner at this point right now? JC Ice ain't back, and he's 32 years old at this point now. So is he really still? I know from the catching standpoint and the security, that's cool, but who are we kidding? We would love some explosion and excitement from that that side of the special teams, because I mean you get a great return, you cutting the field in half, and you already know Jaden Daniels in the offense gonna get down the field, but you telling me our punt returner is so good, he's starting the field position at the 45 every time, 35, like it's crazy. So once again, I agree with you all as well with the same pick. It's kind of like we'll wait and see approach, and not necessarily home run and picks like the Josh Connolly Jr. and the Trey Amos picks. Those were understandable from the get go, or at least after doing some research. But after Jeremy Lane or Jalen Lane one is still a little bit up in the air. More so, we gotta see what he does in training camp, OTAs, and preseason. And then after that, fellas, what was it? The linebacker from Euclid, right?
Yeah, and
Yes,
just
sir.
before we move on to that, I
Mhm.
mean, JC gave us 9 receptions last year. Who are we kidding?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He was what, our 5th option. So I mean, coming from that perspective, like, how much are we putting into a 3rd or 4th receiver? You know what I'm saying? Noah Brown, I feel like he gave us, good numbers for what he did. If he could do the same thing that he did last year, I'll take it from him. But go ahead, we can move on.
Yeah, I mean, no, I like that. I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, you look at the receiving core from last year quickly, it's just like it was just a bunch of meh, right? Like a bunch of somebody doing something every so often. And if we can get a consistent, portion out of everyone, like you said, no one's expecting Jalen Lane to be all pro. No one's expecting Michael Gallup or Noah Brown to be all pros, but just having that consistency at the position is what we've lacked last year. There was no legit number 2 repping. And now we got that in Deebo Samuel and so many other more guys that can contribute at some point. I think the offense has no choice, but to be much better than it was last year. And of course, you have a quarterback that makes anybody look good. So, hey, but moving on to another wholehearted and like warm, fuzzy feeling kind of pick. How do you say his name? I know you said
Kane Madrano.
Kane Madrano, linebacker out of UCLA. Now, when I originally saw this pick and I heard his reaction, I was already sold. I mean, when you get a guy that already has the connection with the coach and Ken Norton, who banged the table for him, and it's funny because you look at every other position group, right? Cliff left a note on AP's desk, draft Oregon tackle, thanks, right? Then you just brought up the special teams coach, being overly excited when we drafted Jalen Lane. And then Ken Norton, Kane Madrano text Ken Norton 10 minutes, said, come get me. And he already had connections with him, right? So I just love the fact that our general managers, they're all on the same page with one another in terms of general manager and coaching staff, and he listens to his coaches. I'm sure AP did his homework and this guy did his homework, and of course he got final say in it, but I think these are coaches' picks more so than anything else. And see how excited he was to come play with Ken Norton. And he says, man, thank you for taking the opportunity on me. You won't regret it. I love hearing that from a player because that lets you know that, one, they're thankful. They're not big-headed about the selection. And 2, they're going to give you your all because they treat it as like, man, this is a opportunity of a lifetime, in which it is. So from the on-field standpoint, could this be the Bobby Wagner successor or Frankie Louisville successor? I still look at it as another pick where we're hoping to prepare for 3 to 4 years from right now, right? Like Kane Madrano may not be a super impact this season because obviously you still got Frankie Louisville. You still got Bobby Wagner. You still expect a second-year leap out of Jordan McGee, but Bobby has, maybe a few years left, if that. But I think if we want to bowl this year, he might hang it up. So now your franchise left tackle, or your franchise, but your linebacker that essentially takes over everything is Frankie Louisville at that point, and some young guys out there. I expect big things out of Jordan McGee. And with Kane Madrano coming in, maybe he's next up in terms of the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I had the same feeling with Madrano. The first thing stood out to me was the speed, the sideline speed. And I always, every time I talk and when I bring up stuff, I always tend to piggyback on what my partner says because he says a lot of things and there's a lot of frustrations. And all last year, sitting beside this guy at every game, he just like, our linebackers are slow. We need speed. So the first thing I thought of, like, we did get that speed, so Reedie should be happy. 4.44, like 4.4, 4.5, 4.5 speed. Was excited to hear that. The connection to Ken Norton. was dope. I immediately, went to the interview. Excuse me, the interview that he had. Because he addressed the media pretty quick. And he was just talking about his versatility. He was talking about how he played special teams. He played off the ball linebacker. He could be in a nickel. They're already talking about it could be that Buffalo safety, linebacker safety hybrid in a nickel for us. He can cover tight ends. He can cover receivers. He can cover running backs. So I think that he's definitely going to be solid. Definitely early on, it's more so in passing downs, and like we mentioned on special teams. And we'll see what he can grow into as the season go along, and even to next year as well. But I think he's going to be a big contributor because when it came to tight ends and things of that nature, Bobby Wagner was getting burnt. A lot of times on them passing downs, Louisville was rushing. So we kind of was getting caught. I think he's going to kind of shore that up a little bit and help us there. But also, he just seemed like a dedicated grinder. And one of the things that they mentioned, a lot of the guys that we selected were captains, were leaders on their team. So I really think he fits that commander mode, and I think he's going to be a great asset for our defense for years to come.
Yeah, I don't think I could follow that. Both of you guys said it's true about him. Not a big tackler from the film and from what I've heard from outside sources. He's not really a tackler, but that sideline to sideline, that speed, that being able to cover tight ends and running backs out of the backfield is going to be pivotal for us. Something that we've kind of been lacking in years past, but solid pick. I remember him from the combine. I remember when he ran, the time he ran. Didn't really know too much about him, but he was a converted receiver, so he has hands. So he might be a guy that can take away the football, something that we, kind of lacked last year in, getting turnovers. But I don't want to forget about those other guys from last year that are ahead of him. But, what I'm saying? I think he has a good chance to come in here and show what he can do as well.
Mm-hmm.
You want to mute one?
I be double muting over this, John. I mute the mic and stream y'all. But so then to close out the draft, we go with running back. Yeah, very excited about that. Z, so I'm gonna let you start it off. I mean, I was getting a little worried. I'm not gonna lie, because that's two positions where we came into the draft expecting an edge, expecting a running back, and we almost didn't end up with either. But before you go, I think it's just because the value, right? I think they drafted off best player available and the value of the pick, and they probably just viewed. I can't really say how they viewed it, because like I said, I would have loved if Omarion Hampton was there to see, at least let Omarion Hampton and Mike Green be there to let them make the decision. So it's kind of hard to say what they would have done if they were there. But I'm just gonna go out and say those are the two guys that they probably would have took if they were there at our picks. But since they weren't, they didn't view the rest of the position as valuable at the time. That's why they felt better off waiting. But man, Ja'Cory Krosky murdered in the 7th round, 245th pick to close out the draft. Man, when I tell you I have not seen a single negative comment on Twitter about this guy, from Phil Yates to Mel Kiper to the insiders to fan, like I have not seen one single negative comment about this guy. And what's so secretive and good about him that no one really knows is why I think he could sneak up on a lot of people is because he hasn't played really, right? 2023 was his best year for real, and then last year he didn't play really at all, and that's why he fell to the 7th round. And he could be a sneaky piece that no one knows about. But Z, I'm gonna let you go ahead and kick it off, man. You seem very excited about this pick. Talk to me.
Yeah, bro. So I'm gonna say it now. Ja'Cory Krosky, Merritt, love the name. JCM is what I'm gonna call him. I think he's gonna be the steal of the draft for us. I mean, a lot of people saying it's Trey Amos, and respectfully, but I think for a 7th round pick and what I think that he can contribute to this offense, I think he's going to surpass that. And the reason why I say that is, one, is that Antonio Gibson was my guy, and I think that he didn't really have the opportunity that he should have had. He had that year where he was a Dallas killer. We had 3 or 4 touchdowns that game. Something crazy when we beat Dallas that game. He killed. I felt like he had the breakaway speed. He was a converter receiver, so he had the hands. You know what I mean? He made people miss. He was a zone runner. He knew he was really developing into a nice running back. And I think his fumbling problems kind of killed that. And he got into the dislikes of Ron and Co. And Ron was trying to make a statement. And they went out and drafted B Rob, and it just pushed him further and further down the chart. And I think JCM runs just like him, shifty. I think he's a little faster than Gibby. I think he'll definitely load the shoulder if he needs to. You know what I mean? So like I said, the breakaway speed, elusive, make people miss. And you know what I mean, like they just said, the year before when he was in New Mexico, he had 1,190 yards in 2023, 17 rushing touchdowns. 17 rushing touchdowns on 23. And 24, he scaled that back with 8. But he shared the carries with another back. So I think that as the main guy, he can definitely, when he was in college as the main guy, he definitely contributed. But I think he brings another element to this offense that we lack, that speed and somebody that can break away. We got B Rob, you know what I mean? He's a bruiser, but we like Reedie always said, he ain't got that he ain't making nobody miss. He ain't, you know what I mean? He ain't breaking away. He getting tackled. He getting stopped, and he's a little slow. It's like a second too late when he's making his decisions on the moves or whatever. I think B Rob paired with him is going to be nice. I think he's going to be what we thought Eckler still had, and I think that he's going to push some guys off the depth chart. Probably push some guys onto the practice squad, if not out of the running back room. I don't know, but I'm high on him. I've been hearing a lot of great things about him. They saying that he's a workhorse. He calling himself a dog. Despite a reduced role in 2024, he remained efficient and productive, and he showed that he can adapt and compete on every level. So they're saying that he only slipped because he missed that last year due to eligibility issues. So this is a guy that could have, went he could have probably went 3rd, 4th round maybe. And looking at that tape that we posted, and I mean it was like a 2-3 minute clip of just him, all his rushes, and I think he a dog, and I think he's really gonna be a key contributor. I don't want to jump out there yet and say he'll eventually take over as RB1, but it's on the cusp.
Man, I liked everything you said about Jacory, man. I really felt like this was another pick in terms, and it's funny, that's the theme about a draft. It's steals and value, and this guy could be, the steal of the draft out of so many players that we got. And that gives me a lot of confidence that we made the right decision. Now, when it comes to what he brings, it's funny you said that, and that this kind of proves, and I don't know why I always overthink it. Or like why I feel like I'd be so surprised that I know football, because I literally compared him to Antonio Gibson too. So you saying the same thing kind of make me like, all right, Juan, you know what you're talking about. Even though I already should feel like I know what I'm talking about, I still be like, all right, am I the only one that see this? But no, he literally gives me Antonio Gibson on crack vibes. Now, yeah. I think the biggest thing that we are going to love about Jacory is just the fact that he can do everything, right? Mm-hmm. Like it could be, how we ran the split backfield with B-Rob and Eck last year. Take B-Rob off the field, and this is no shot to B-Rob. Everyone loves the comment, and it's funny because when we talk negative about a player, all the fans want to say, well, you're going to regret talking negative about him. And when I talk positive about him, oh, B-Rob is trash. B-Rob is trash. He need to go. I don't get it, but take B-Rob off the field and run that split backfield with 2 pass-catching backs. That's just it's insane what we can do. It's insane. And then he's already has a a bigger build. He's only 5'10", but he has a bigger build, right? So he can whiff laughs, hits. He's great in the pass protection as well, and he has the breakaway speed that we've all been looking for. Now it's 4.45. It ain't like crazy, but it's cool. It's solid, and you already talked about him pushing guys off the roster. Bye to Chris Rodriguez, and some semi hot take. Well, nah, because semi hot take. Jerry McNichols, depending on how summer goes, could be on a bubble. Now, I think they could do him like how they did kicker Gonzalez. We'll talk about the kicker too after this, but they could teach him. They can treat him like Gonzalez. Well, Gonzalez was never the guy that they wanted to stay with, but just in case they couldn't find nothing better, they signed him to a 1-year deal to have at least something to fall back on. I think that's what Jerry McNichols could be this summer, where they signed him, read up on him, and brought him back just in case, right? Like nothing pans out properly this summer, and he's gonna be here. But if it do. If Ja'Cory Koskimer has a great training camp and has a really good preseason, I could see J-Mac being released. And it's not because he's not necessarily he can contribute to this roster, but you're not about to put Jerry McNichols on the practice squad. At least I don't think so. I know you'll be able to put Chris Rodriguez on the practice squad, so he's going to be around if he doesn't make the main roster. But it's hard for me to believe, unless you decide to keep 4 backs, that Jerry McNichols will be on the practice squad. I don't know. I could be wrong about that. But I think we'll have 4 backs this season at some point. But I think we're going to keep 3 and just have Chris Rodriguez floating around if need be, injuries or may have. So I like this pick as well. And I think it adds another dynamic to the running back room that ultimately, all of a sudden, is very, very dynamic because you have a different running back for everything. And I know Eck had the injuries issues, but let's not forget what Eckler is when healthy. As long as he's not on kick return, punt returns, he should be good.
Yeah. And before Reedie hop on, like this is how well we be knowing each other. So I didn't even really realize it for real. I'm just sitting there, just like I said, I was immediately like just sold on this guy. And Reedie just called me and just like, I'm hip to you, Bobby. I'm like, what you mean? He like, you like Slim because he run like Gibby. Like, yeah, he said that, but he like Gibby. And Gibby your man. I'm hip to you. And I just started busting out laughing. Because I was like, damn, he do run like Gibby. Maybe that is why I like him, but I'm sold on him, and we're gonna see. But yeah, go ahead.
I appreciate you, Z, because I did call it that he runs like Gibby, but I think he's a little bit more shiftier than Gibby as far as his just weaving in between, guys inside the box. He got really good vision from his tape, really, really good vision, and that's something that the backs that we have really lack. That vision, and then those little short cuts. I think he does that extremely well. I didn't think that he has breakaway speed, don't get me wrong, but it's not the breakaway speed that I was looking like Juan alluded to. He has is 4.45. Not nothing to write home about. I wanted a 2 and a 4.3 or 4.2 guy, somebody that could just Chris Johnson like out of there. You know what I'm saying? But I do think it's an upgrade in our room for sure. And I like the pick. Didn't really know too much about him beforehand. I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh, I knew that guy, or I could see him in our offense because I didn't know about him. But I do think it's a solid pickup, and it puts our room on notice. But Z, stop what you doing, Z, because like I noticed you lately. You've been trying to like relegate Eckler to get out of here, like you know what I'm saying. Like
I ain't say nothing last couple episodes. I let it be.
Nah, but I'm just saying, like, you're messaging like Eckler, what we thought he was gonna be. Give my man some time. He gonna be back this year. Just what I'm saying, stay a little patient with him. But I like that scenario that Juan brought up with Jacoby and Eckler in the backfield split together, like 2 pass catching. He can catch it out of the backfield and you can hand it to him. You know what I'm saying? It just gives this offense just a different dynamic. And I'm excited. I ain't been that excited for a training camp in a long while, but I'm excited to get to this training camp and to get through all of this summer and see what really with the best 53 that they could put on the field and go into the season. Tough tests, all over, but the next stop will be May 14th. We got that schedule released, so I'm here for it. You on mute, Juan.
I gotta stop doing that. But to conclude the draft, fellas, before we got two more topics. We got the kicker and then the stadium. And then I got like a little funny question for you at the end. But what are we giving this draft grade? Me personally, it's crazy because how I feel they did is not the grade I'm gonna give them. I felt like they had it out the park. I felt like it's at least an A-, but I'm gonna say B+, just because a lot of the picks, outside of the first two picks, the rest of it I would say is just kind of, although we're high on them, it's like we don't know what to expect. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you, I feel like I already know what to expect out of Josh Conley Jr., and I damn sure know what to expect out of that NFC East meant to be cornerback Trey Amos. He's meant for this. But the rest of it is kind of just a wait and see. So I'm gonna be realistic. I'm gonna be humble. And although I think they hit it out the park, A- in terms of what they're gonna eventually be, I'm gonna just say B+ for right now.
Yeah, I say I have to give it B-, strictly based off of the unknowns, like you said. But if you look at all of the metrics and the RAS scores and all of that other stuff, like they're saying like we had the best draft, like hands down when it comes to the value and the expected return that should come out of these picks. I'm hearing big things. And then also just to go back to Connolly, what I'm saying, for a moment, they're saying if he would have stayed another year, he would have been a top 5 pick the next year. So we got him a little earlier, but Amos, I think he's going to be him, but it's a wait and see with the other picks. I think the linebacker Buffalo nickel guy could be very special in this league. Like, I just for whatever reason, I could just see him like making turnovers and stuff like that just on the defense. I don't know where they're going to put him, but I could just see him as a guy that's just getting turnovers and coming in and just kind of like that ball magnet type of guy.
Yeah. Like I said, I didn't I didn't necessarily think we needed a tackle initially, but I love the pick after the fact. Trey Amos, I'm loving what I'm hearing about him. So I like that pick as well. The Lane pick is like the biggest question mark for me, because we just don't know what he's gonna do. But we'll see. The Madrano pick I loved, and the JCM pick I love. So overall, I'm giving it like a B, B+, same thing as Juan. But I would love to see, like they saying, Reedie sent over the comparisons that circulated with the metrics on Deshaun Jackson out of the draft and Lane out of the draft, and it was pretty matchy. It was spot on. But the one thing I said is one thing about D-Jax, he knew how to track the football and come down with it in the catch. So Juan, at the top of the show, you mentioned that. I didn't necessarily catch that about Lane, or I didn't hear that. So if that's meant to be true, then shit, it could easily jump to A, but the verdict is still out. So I'm sitting at like a B+. But we'll see how it goes and go from there. You're still muted.
Anyways, all right, so draft talk is concluded. I'm sure once we get Jon back, who we're dearly missing right now.
Man, Jr. I mean, Kuiper Jr. Jon Kuiper Jr.
I'm sure he'll have a lot to say.
Jon was pissed by the draft, by the way. If we're looking at those texts, blue to this guy. Blue. It was Mike Green. He was on the board. Like, we passed on this guy. He was pissed the whole
Look,
draft.
I was on his live.
His grade.
Look, I was on his live when we picked Connolly. And he was on there like throwing a fit. Like, what? Like, And then I purposely asked him the next day, I was like, John, so how you feeling about the pick? He was like, yeah, I had time to calm down. I think it's an okay pick. But in the moment, he was hot.
He was pissed. He kept saying, he was saying, yeah, it's got to be Mike Green. And I'm texting him like, it's Connerly. Or some shit like that. I one of them picks, I was telling him what it was. And then he kept coming back like, yeah, you guys can hop on. Come on, man, hop on. I'm like, with the kids. But he wanted us to hop on and talk that shit because he was heated.
But look, I was telling Z, I said, people probably was in the comments looking like, who the hell is John Kuiper Jr.? like how they did the Mel Kiper years ago. Like, he can't hold a jock strap. Like, I'm like, John, you said we was going to take the edge. What happened, John? But
go ahead.
Shout out my man, John, man.
600 mocks. He did not have us taking a tackle.
Yes, I can't wait for next week to hear his opinion on it because I know he's going to be ranting about it.
Facts.
But we got still a couple more topics, but we're going to try to make it, semi-fast. But some interesting news, some very great news for a lot of us out here. There's them few people out there. I know y'all probably saw the sign, don't bring RFK back or whatever, that was hung up, blah, blah, blah. But for the most part, everybody is excited that the news is finally real. It's so real that they had a press conference on the team, Joe. I'm like, oh, okay, so it's real. I see Muriel Bowser up there. I'm like, she don't really care about us. She just see the dollar signs. That's all she see. She ain't no fan of the team. But nah, in all seriousness, she's been wanting this for, I guess, 10 plus years. She says she's been fighting for it since she's been in office. And it's official, man. Washington Commanders is returning back to where they belong, although it's a bittersweet feeling because I can get to RFK and fast as well, but ain't nothing like being able to just get to FedEx like that or Northwest Stadium like that. That's the only bittersweet pill about it. But in terms of what they say it's going to look like and how it is, it's the best move possible, and I'm excited for him to return back home. How y'all feeling about it? Unks being able to experience RFK. So but how y'all feeling about us going back to the city, man? Back to where we belong. Was it $3 billion dollars? I guess granted to us 180 acres of land, and they said the stadium is only supposed to be 15% of it. So they expect it to be so much going on. How are we feeling about the stadium?
So for me, I'm super excited about, just the opportunity to, one, get a stadium that has a roof, a state-of-the-art stadium, period. I don't care where it's at. If it's in Virginia, if it's in Maryland, if it's in DC, I was going to be there regardless. But it's better that it's in DC just because of that history and that lineage and that aura of, the old days when back in the day with the Hogs and stuff like that, as far as our tradition goes. Super excited about it. And it just feels like, a great deal for the city, as it relates to it, because pretty much the team is taking on most of the money in the deal. So to the city council that's, not necessarily sold, I think there was 4 or 5 out of the, the 9 that, that are going to vote that are on board so far. And some of the guys were saying that they didn't know they needed to look at the particulars or whatever. They just dropped them yesterday morning or whatever, what have you. You ain't going to get a deal better than that for 180 acres of dormant land that's just sitting there. And like you said, Juan, the stadium is only 15% of the total development. And then the plus side of it is nobody's going to be displaced, like the mayor said. People don't have to worry about having to uproot their families and move out of Ward 7 and this, that, and the third. There's obviously going to be some development as far as housing and stuff like that in that area or whatever. But the city is really only taking on the infrastructure for real, and the team is taking on all of the stadium stuff. So those guys that want to be negative about stadiums, like, I don't know what you've really been negative about, because you ain't gonna get a deal bigger than that. The Capitals not the Capitals, but the Monumental Sports, for them to stay, they didn't even contribute that much. The city contributed way more than when the Nats came here. They contributed way more. So this is a win-win But if we remember, I think it was Anthony Williams was the mayor. Kind of in the ninth inning, they kind of like, halted those talks, and then they were able to come back a few days later, and then they landed the Nats, and the Nats came back. But I'm hearing there's a July deadline for what our ownership has given them to kind of figure this thing out. They want to get this thing passed, they want to get it moving so they can continue with the demolition and stuff like that. But awesome, just happy to hear it, and just from those mocks is just elation for me on my end.
Yeah. I don't think Muriel Bowser would have went to the extent that she did with the press conference and all the hype and everything around it, getting all the greats and Joe Gibbs, pulling Joe Gibbs back from something that he already had to do, and bringing out everybody for this not to go through. They saying right now there's already 4 yeses. They need 3 more out of like 5 to 6 people. So I think it's going to get done. Super excited for what this is going to bring back to the city that I was born and raised in. I love the opportunity to be back home, and like Reedie said, to bask in a tradition and have a state-of-the-art stadium. One of the biggest things that, FedEx was built when I was a kid. And, pretty much I've had my share of FedEx, but FedEx has never been known to be a top nothing for stadium-wise. So, when we go on the road, we've been on the road the last few years, and when we go on the road, we see these other stadiums, i.e. Atlanta Falcons, Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I think that's the name of it. That stadium is like crazy. It's sick, beautiful, just top of the line. What they offer inside the stadium was just amazing. And just to know that that's what we're going to have at the least, it's up. It's up for us as a team. Shout out to Josh Harris. 2 years in, you're able to pull this deal out. You're putting up $2.7 billion. It shows where he is with it. And I think it's just gonna be an uplift to the community, and just DC as a whole. Like Reedie said, a lot of people are against it. Yes, it's gonna bring traffic, but it's also gonna bring jobs from the start all the way throughout. Just imagine how much construction is going to be done on this. I just texted my man the other day. He got this construction company. I'm like, it got to be a way that y'all get in on this. Like, it's going to be so many layers of work just for people just in the city, just in general. So I just think it's an amazing thing, and I'm happy to see that it's on the way. And I was just sitting here thinking the other day, like, God forbid, I ain't looking to check out of here, nothing like that. I was just saying, like, God forbid, let me be here to see this and beyond. This is gonna be dope and amazing. And of course, our football, outside of the stadium aspect of it, our football team is on the ups and ups. So imagine a Super Bowl in that stadium. Imagine, the NFC Championship in that stadium. And then to top it off, you talking about, and I'm not big on the monuments and all that, but shit, to have a glass stadium and you can see the Capitol from sitting inside the stadium, man, that's fire. And even the last thing I'm gonna say, JP was talking about, I know they saying, the tailgating thing is gonna be much limited. We're going from 22,000 parking spots to 8,000. So it's going to be super limited on the tailgating side, but it might be a situation where people can pull up in their boats and boat gate.
Boat gate is crazy. I ain't never heard of that before. I don't know if I want boat gate in the Anacostia though. I don't know about that one.
I don't got nothing to do with the water. Just keep me on that boat and give me all so I go to that game and get me back home.
Nah,
but somebody in the comments was like, yeah, somebody sneakily said, yeah, Fred Smoot gonna have fun on that boat gate and some shit like that. I was like, wow.
He about to have water fairies and some more stuff on the
Man, it's gonna be crazy.
Yeah.
Mhm. But nah, man. This last thing about the glass dome, that's dope. Just imagine the loudness, man, and we just cracked the glass. I don't know. I was just thinking something crazy. Like we so loud in the jump. I doubt that can happen because they ain't gonna put no like just any kind of glass dome. But like it'd be cool, man, to have that, and then traffic gonna be crazy because now the Super Bowl is in play, right? Like so many other events is in play, right?
Final
So
Fours, WrestleMania.
yeah, man. But man, more of the story. Everybody excited for it to come back. Now, we got one more topic, and then we'll get up out of here, and then a little question. We signed a kicker, ladies and gentlemen. We signed a kicker, and is it Matt Gay is his name, or is it Mike Gay? I think it's Matt Gay. Matt Gay, formerly of the Indianapolis Colts and the LA Rams. This is his 2 previous stops. So bye to Zane Gonzalez, Austin Saber. He's our kicker. So originally when we first signed him, I was like, man, I hate when we do this because we've done it since Dustin Hopkins. Like I'm always pro bringing competition regardless because kickers, punters, they got the easiest training camps out of all of them. So they don't really have to work during summertime. But me personally, I'm like, all right, that's cool. Just even if you don't think he's going to make the roster, or even if you just want to bring in competition for your kicker, just do it so they can make, sharpen their tools and earn the spot. But we're not doing that. So it seems like it's going to be Matt Gay. And just a little bit quickly about his little history is he's 85% and overall kicking throughout his career, although the last 2 seasons he has not been the best. I think outside the 50 is where he struggles. So another guy that doesn't have the strongest leg, but maybe with our coaching, he can get back right. But he does have a disadvantage. Hopefully it doesn't bother him because when he played against the Ravens, he went 4 outside. So that hopefully isn't an issue. But something that he had to his advantage last year was the climate. He played in 2 dome stages, was able to control it. That's not going to be the case, especially when it gets to them November, December, January games. It could be a little bit challenging. But how are we feeling about this kick and pickup? Are we upset that they didn't address the kicker position in the draft, and overall I'll be comfortable with this over Zane Gonzalez.
I mean, me and Z are always talking about we're waiting for the corresponding move, and I didn't think this was going to be the corresponding move, going to go sign a kicker. It kind of threw me off a little bit when it came across my desk. I was like, what? So like, what was the purpose of us re-signing Zane if they were just going to cut him and bring another guy in? So they kind of threw me off in my thinking, and I just was like, well, damn, like you said, Juan, like, where's the competition at? Then you paid him $4.5 million, the highest 1-year deal for a kicker. What they said in NFL history? So I kind of was just like, wow, like I didn't really understand it. I'm not gonna say like I think it's a bad move because once you get into his stats and stuff like that, you're like, okay, all right. Anything below 50, he's pretty much spot on. But then, when Z told me that, then I was like, well, damn. But what about those 54, 55, 56 yarders? Because those be clutch. You be needing those field goals, those little over 50-yard field goals. Like he really wasn't that good in that aspect. So that kind of gives me a little worry with them not having some type of competition. But Z assured me that it'll be some type of competition. So we'll wait and see on that. But I think overall, as a kicker, I think, the 85 percentile, over his career, I think he was in 4 stops he was in. I think that it's a solid pickup, but I'm just not, the timing of it just kind of threw me off. I'm thinking like, oh, we're going to go bring in an edge or somebody like that, not a kicker. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That definitely was Reedie's reaction. He's like, he wasn't sold. Like, well, what are we doing? I thought we had Zane. Man, that's messed up. His wife was just excited that he got re-signed. And I'm like, Reedie, it's the NFL, Bobby. This is how it works. But much respect, much love, much shout out to Zane. But I do think that on the surface, Matt Gay is a better kicker, especially like they're saying the high percentage under 50. And I mean that I think he was like 3 for 9 over 50, and that does a little worry. But I also thought about it like we gonna be going for it a lot. So, you know what I mean? Just as last year, we were one of the top teams in going forward on fourth down and converting. So I think that's going to continue moving forward. So I think if we get in those situations where they think he may be a little questionable or they're not going to kick it, we're going to take our shots. We're not going to change our mentality. So, I mean, it's a worry, but I wouldn't bask in it too much because I think we're still going to turn up on them fourth downs.
Yeah, so there we have it for today's show, ladies and gentlemen. Covered a lot. Very interesting. Got deep into the draft. Seems to be very fine about the draft, and obviously RFK, and now the kicker. Now the final thing I got for y'all before we get up out of here. We know the BS that's been going around: 100 humans versus one gorilla. This. All right. What about this though? 100 all-time Washington Commanders, right? This is what I'm thinking. Hogs, 100 of the best all-time Washington Redskin Commanders football team players versus one gorilla. Do they stand a chance? Now you can think about who you add to the list, who you add to the team. All the guys. I think that I don't know. That'd be interesting. Trent Williams, come on, man. I think the gorilla might be going down. 100 all-time Commanders.
Yeah, I'm gonna say the gorilla goes down. I'm gonna say the gorilla. I mean, Trent.
Say Cap. That's what I'm gonna say.
Dave Bust.
Really? I'm not even gonna go back that far.
Dexter Manley.
Crazy strength and just one little slap knocks somebody.
Your man
off.
Chris Samuels.
Come on, bro.
John Jansen.
A gorilla, bro.
Russ Grimm.
Y'all don't watch Animal Planet? Like the specs on these gorillas.
But these are top of the top athletes though, and we get to choose from the whole entire history of 1932.
LaRon Landry.
I'm just saying. A gorilla like smacked the shit out of three of them, the top strongest Commanders / Redskins of all time. That's it. They not getting up. That's the same. That's what I'm worried about.
LaRon Landry on the juice any day.
But I think people's strategies is wrong. They keep saying having casualties the first 20 go. No, you gotta rush them all at once. 100 gotta go at once. That's the only way. And I think 100 of all-time skins can handle the gorilla, man. I think so.
I got one for you though, Juan.
What's up?
Shedeur Sanders, talk about it.
Oh my god.
Oh man.
We gotta touch the subject. Come on, we wouldn't be right.
I mean, look. So my thing is right with Shedeur Sanders, and my opinion on it. I'm not surprised that he didn't get drafted in the first round, but I am surprised at how far he went on the board and the guys went in front. Come on, Dylan Gabriel, really? What's the Saints guy that they took? Come on, really? Oh, Travis Hunter is this good. Jimmy Horn is this good. Webster is this good. They got drafted before him, and just this quarterback is just trash. Like, who was throwing on the ball? That is what I don't understand, and that's where a lot of people pull the card of race. It's like, he needs to get humble. I get it. You think he cocky or whatever may have you, but come on, bro. Don't let that overshadow football. He has some talent in his body. Now, I don't know how he performed in the meetings. They said he wasn't really performing well in the meetings, and that turned him off to a lot of other teams, but come on, bro. What, 5th round? Really? I don't think he should have been that taken that long or been on the board that long. However, I think the Browns just took him because it was like a head down pick. You still hit, damn, I'm gonna take, because why the hell they take Dylan Gabriel? They're dysfunctional as hell. So it don't make sense what they're doing. Their quarterback room is Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, Deshaun Watson still there, and all he's not playing. So those like, what are they doing? But I don't think he should have went that long without drafting. If we're talking pure football and they genuinely don't think he's that good, then I guess Mel Kiper is cooked. I mean, a lot of people already didn't like him, but Mel Kiper said that's his number one quarterback in this draft. And if we're talking pure football and they think he isn't good, that's why he went 5th round. That's tough, but that it's hard for me to believe that it's more to this story. Whether it's Deion Sanders, whether it's the color of his skin, whether it's it's more to why they didn't take him earlier, and I think it's a shame. But yeah, that's all I gotta say about it for real.
Yeah, and I would say that, I mean, even if he's not the number one quarterback in the draft or number two, he's definitely not a fifth round pick. And that's stamped. Now what he did in the interviews, we don't know. I do think a lot of people are confusing confidence with arrogance and all those other things that they want to title it. I think that he comes from a product of a man who spoke his mind. He said what he wanted to say. He thought highly of himself, and he I mean, confidence times confidence. I mean, Deion Sanders didn't hold back on nothing. That's what he's seen. That's what he know. That's what he was embedded with. That's who he is genetically. So to hold that against him, I think it's a shame. Then to turn around and, I think definitely they let it string along to spike the ratings. I'm sure nobody watched day 3 as much as this draft. I'm sure the ratings was through the roof. And then also to the moment he got drafted, he was on every single fucking post. Him and his brother and his family and this and that. It's just like
they announced it. They never do that. They made it. They announced it and showed it on TV.
Yeah, like come on now, like wow, like this NFL sometimes just make me shake my head. It's just like it is just sad and it's just wild. I'm gonna just leave it at that.
Yeah, I agree with Juan. I think I didn't think he was a first round talent. Just my view of football wise. But I was saying like second round, he should have at least at the end of the first, going into the second round, he definitely should have been taken. I don't know what it was about, but I will say this: I don't know what was said in the interviews, but if what they're saying did take place, like we got to take a step back. And I'm one that I don't always think that it's race, but I think you gotta, how we would teach our kids to go into a job interview, just because you are a son of a Hall of Famer and this, that, and the third, you still have to respect it enough to go in there and do what you're supposed to, play the game and get out. Now, I don't know what was said. So, I mean, I'm just coming from that thought process. If I'm going on a job interview, I'm trying to impress. Like I wouldn't be saying negative things if that was me, and I would teach my kids to do the same thing. And I think all of us probably would tell our kids to do the same thing on a job interview, despite what you grew up and what this and what that. But from everything that I see from Prime on the internet, it's just like about respect and stuff like that. So I kind of have a hard time believing some of the stuff because he doesn't seem like he seems like he's a zero tolerance for disrespect type of person. And I don't think his kids kind of portray that, but he is kind of a little cocky or whatever, but I don't think he went into the interview maybe necessarily doing that. But from a strict football perspective, I do think that he shouldn't have been a first round pick. But he definitely should have been at least a second round pick. And all of them quarterbacks that went was not better than him. Like when the Giants came back to get dark, I was like, what? Like it just didn't make sense to me on that note.
Yeah, man. So, Giants fans calling them JD12, by the way, just to put that out there. They can't come up with their own little swag, so they gotta hop on, the bandwagon and call Jackson Dot JD12, man. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, you can go ahead and read that comment if you would like.
I guess he's just agreeing with what I said.
Okay. All right, y'all. So this is another wonderful episode of the Burgundy Breakdown concluding, man. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, and comment to Reedie and Zee putting out hard work on all platforms, YouTube, Instagram, and every social media out there. Make sure you guys subscribe to their channel and also subscribe to Juan Gotti Talking Sports. And we can't forget John, although John isn't here, we still got to plug Ballin In Burgundy podcast. Make sure you guys subscribe to all of us. This is the Burgundy Breakdown. it's just the beginning still, man. This is something that Reedie Zee they put together, and I love doing it each and every week. And I can just imagine the episodes as we get to training camp and the season, or if this becomes an on-season thing, we'll see about that. But thank you again, always, for the opportunity of putting this idea together. I love doing this show, and y'all have a blessed one. Stay safe. It's me, boy Juan.
I'm Z,
and I'm Reedie, and John ain't here, but we gone.
out.